I received several requests from some of you guys to make a video about nursing school tips. And as a somewhat recent graduate of nursing school, I definitely have some nursing school tips that I wanted to share with you guys. And starting with number one, it is to find a study system that works for you. And what I found that worked best for me was following the Pomodoro technique. And I have a video of it and I will link it here. For a lot of my lectures, a lot of my instructors posted slides ahead of time before class started. So I would always download those notes ahead of time onto my iPad, and I have the Notability app that I would sync the notes into, and I would just kind of look over the notes ahead of time for a lecture. So then I kind of had an idea of what the lecture was about, and I would take notes just over the slides that were provided to us. And same night, I would just go over the notes that I wrote down. Some of the lectures were also recorded, so I would rewatch the lectures and kind of go over the slides just to kind of reinforce what I was learning in class. And I know a lot of students used Quizlet or Anki, and a lot of my classmates also made a free Quizlet that we kind of all use, and sometimes I would reference that, or I would find different Quizlets online or create my own and just kind of study off of that. And I found that that was really helpful towards me studying for exams that were coming up. On to tip number two, it is time management. Time management in nursing school is definitely really important. I used a physical planner and I eventually kind of transitioned to a digital planner, and right now as a current nurse I just use a digital planner just because I find that that works. But I find that just having either a physical or a digital planner is really important, so you remember the dates of exams and when assignments are due, when clinicals are, and just to also kind of balance out what you're doing outside of nursing school. And this leads me to tip number three, which is to not memorize but to understand the things you're learning, especially in patho and in pharmacology. You don't want to just brain dump and then forget about all the things after the exam, especially because you do see these disease processes out in the real world. You want to be able to apply this knowledge even after nursing school, which is really important. And I find that drawing out concepts really helps me, and also watching a lot of YouTube videos. There's definitely a lot of different YouTube videos online, and the internet is definitely at your disposal to find what works for you. And I find that if you're really taking the time to learn and understand everything and not just trying to memorize, it will definitely pay dividends in the long term. On to tip number four, I wanted to share some clinical confidence tips with you guys and how you guys can prepare for clinicals, especially since it can be really intimidating going into a hospital setting, especially if you guys have not had any clinical or hospital experience before going to nursing school. If your instructors provide the patient that you're going to be taking care of, or the patients you're going to be taking care of, I think if you do have access to look up the patient a little ahead of time before starting work, so then you kind of have a visualization of, okay, this is the patient that I'm going to be working with, looking through the orders, looking through their LDAs, and just kind of understanding their disease process and asking yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen today working with this patient population? Also thinking about the different types of education you can be doing, especially if a patient has a history of type 2 diabetes. You can think about the different education that you can be doing, especially regarding diet, a nutritionist following them, looking into PT and OT orders, thinking about psych evals, just kind of thinking about the patient as a whole. Just trying to prep as much as you can. And then also I think packing ahead of time. So I have some videos on what I packed in my clinical bag, and you guys can also watch that and you will see what I brought to clinicals. And a lot of what I bring to clinicals I still bring with me into my nursing practice. And also making sure you get adequate amount of sleep beforehand is going to be super important. Clinicals for me started around like 5 or 6 in the morning, and at 7 we would round with different nurses and we would speak with the different teams. So you definitely want to make sure you're getting a good night of rest beforehand and trying to not overwork yourself. Don't stress too much. A good amount of stress is good because it's keeps you on your toes. Try not to be so overwhelmed to the point where you're not able to get any sleep. And if you guys are people who drink caffeine, make sure you have your coffee or your energy drink with you. And also make sure you have the correct attire. Make sure you have your scrubs, your badge, and all the supplies you need. And believe in yourself. And before you know it, clinical day will be over and you'll probably be debriefing the entire day with your clinical group. On to tip number 5. It is probably a controversial one, depending, but I honestly think you do not need to prep for the NCLEX starting on day 1. However, you definitely want to make sure you're understanding all the things you're learning in class and in clinicals. But for me, I found that studying for the NCLEX was truly realistic when I was finished with nursing school, which was what I did. And I made a whole video on it, how I studied within 2 weeks and took the NCLEX after graduating. For me, I found that dedicating a specific amount of time and putting some pressure on myself made me learn the material and understand all the things way better than if I was to try to carve out some time starting the first day of nursing school, starting to study just because you haven't learned all the concepts. But I also think that there's a lot of study techniques that can be used that you'll start picking up on throughout your nursing school experience that I think it's probably realistic and best for your mental health to study for the NCLEX, maybe starting the last term or after graduating from nursing school. I also think that that is the case because right now you're in nursing school and you're in a new environment and it's really stressful, and trying to pass and do good in your classes is definitely important. And if you're adding the stress of trying to study for the NCLEX, it can be extremely overwhelming. Tip number 6 is to practice self-care. And self-care is something that you need to learn not only in nursing school, but also when you're working. And it's a lifelong thing that I think people are always constantly trying to learn. And it's something that I'm always learning and trying to get better at. And I think it's important to study, but I also think it's important to have a life outside of studying, because school and nursing should not just be your whole identity. You should expand yourself and try to pick up other hobbies while in nursing school. It's definitely possible, it's definitely doable, and I think it's also important to find time to take care of yourself as well. And that can mean cooking nourishing meals, finding a day throughout the week to meal prep, exercising, getting massages, and whatever self-care looks to you. Cleaning also was really therapeutic for me. But don't just bury yourself in a dark room every day and just study, because that's not good for your mental health. And just finding ways to find balance in your routine, and it will definitely take some trial and error. And it's a whole learning process, and I was learning about self-care all throughout nursing school, but I think it's really important towards your success and your success as a nurse to practice self-care starting early on in your career. My tip number 7 is making friends and networking. Nursing school is really stressful, and it's not easy if you're just trying to do it all alone, and it's definitely not fun. I think it's really important to find peers within your nursing school, nursing cohort, and try to build friendships with them, because these are the people you're going to be doing projects with. These are the people you're going to have clinicals with, and maybe you will become coworkers with these people. So I think building friendships is really important, and it also makes studying easier, especially if some of you guys like studying in group settings. And you guys can always just hang out outside of nursing school too, and having that kind of support and knowing that other people understand the struggles of going through nursing school and talking about healthcare experiences, talking about your journey is something that you shouldn't take for granted. Sometimes when you talk with your friends that are not in nursing school, they might not understand the struggles of the healthcare system or what you're going through. And if you find a good group of friends in nursing school, I think it's gonna make nursing school a lot more doable, and you'll believe in yourself more, and your classmates are there to really help you through tough times. And if you're just isolating yourself from everyone, it can make nursing school feel really long and just not a good experience. And you also want to build your network. not only with your nursing school friends, but also with your instructors, especially if any of you guys are considering graduate school or need letters of recommendation for applying to jobs and interviews and need a reference. I think just building good relationships with people in nursing school is just really important towards your success. On to tip number 8. It is just the nursing school myths and truths that you hear, and I think it's common to hear that nursing school you'll have no life and all of that, but from my experience I definitely think you will have a good work-life balance if you make it a priority, and if you don't make it a priority then nursing school will consume you. I definitely think it's doable to go hang out with friends. Sometimes you might have to make some sacrifices. I don't think you're truly just stressed the whole time. There's definitely some highs and lows to nursing school, but I don't think nursing school is impossible. For number 9, I just wanted to share some tips with you guys that you should avoid in nursing school. And I know many of you guys know this, but try not to procrastinate all your assignments and do them last minute, because it will stress you out, you'll lose out on sleep, and it's just not good for your mental health. It's not good for you to learn the information, and you're probably just going to be memorizing a lot of information, or you're not even going to remember the assignment that you did. So try to work ahead of time, and if you know that you have a specific assignment due in 3 weeks, don't wait until 2 days before it is due. Definitely take the time to start working on it, maybe 2 weeks in advance, and then look at the different resources that you have available to you. We have the writing center that's available. There's definitely a lot of tutoring services, and try to schedule those to help with you if you need help with studying or learning the information. There are some assignments that are optional, such as reading from textbooks where there's different chapters assigned, and sometimes there's no way to assess if you really read the chapters. But I definitely recommend skimming over those chapters and not looking at those if they are assigned to you, just because it is definitely really helpful when you're trying to learn the information that you're learning in class. It's just like an added way of studying. And finally, on to tip number 10. It is to remind yourself of your passion. And when you're in midterms or finals season, it can feel really lonely. It can feel stressful, and you can feel a whole mix of emotions. In those times, you should really remind yourself why you decided to go into nursing school. Remind yourself that everything that you're doing will be worth it, and it definitely will. And sometimes there are moments where you might not feel like it, but just remember that there's a purpose why you're in nursing school and how you got into nursing school. And those are basically all my tips for you guys who are in nursing school or about to start nursing school. And I just want to remind you that what you're doing is worth it, and I believe in all of you guys.